Hello, and thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the month of June as we celebrate Juneteenth. And I have my friend joining me from Fort Worth, Texas, the one and only Dione Sims. How are you doing?
Good morning, Cedric.
Well, let me tell you something. Me and you've been friends. How long we been friends, Dione?
We have been doing things since before 1994, but 94 is when we started Teen Choir Explosion and working together. So yeah.
So you mean we got 30 years coming up?
30 years.
Wow, incredible. Well, if somebody had told us that we would be talking about Juneteenth like this, because when you and I first got together, we were talking about choirs and doing things. Well, guess what? You're still doing that. But it's
that's true. And we remember it's that long line. It's always been about bringing people together and unifying. So that has been the consistent staple all 30 years, right?
Yes, it definitely has been. And to God be the glory. But Dione, I want to go ahead. First of all, where is Miss Opal? Where's your grandmother at today?
Today, my grandmother is in Philadelphia. She did a flag raising yesterday, and she'll speak to a corporate DEI group this morning before she heads back. But she is out doing the educating the nation about the importance and significance of Juneteenth.
Well, you guys were in Sherman, Texas. Then y'all went down to Wiley. I can't even keep up with y'all. How many? Just kind of give us a journey how it's been now, because what year was that it was signed? It was in
2021.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So kind of give us a little bit. Because did I see that? Let's see. She was at the Rangers throwing out the first pitch. She was at TCU at the football game. She did the Mavericks basketball game. She went to the University of North Texas and got an honorary doctor's degree.
Right.
So talk about what it's been life been for the last 360 days.
Well, it's actually slower than the 2021 year. So 2022. And what we are attributing that to is the nation is level setting, right? The balancing out is happening. But what we don't want is for it to, fade away. So our goal now, we're shifting from activism to make Juneteenth a national holiday to now being sustaining, educating the nation about why Juneteenth is so important. Because after the woo, you made it, folks think that you can just rest back and, rest on your laurels. And that's not our goal. Because we don't want Juneteenth to just be relegated as another, chance to have a day off or have a barbecue or have a festival. Juneteenth is so much more because it represents freedom from enslavement. And that slavery now, while it was chattel slavery before, is now more about the human soul, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that when we look at freedom from enslavement, what are the things that are enslaving us today? So Juneteenth has to grow to be more than just a historical significance. It's what is it today and what will it be tomorrow for our future generations? So that's what our goal is right now, is to help Juneteenth be more than just a moment in history, because freedom is 365.
You're right. And I'm glad to hear you say for our generation and more. I recently just had the chance to talk to Mr. Jared Howard, and it's about the National Museum. Now, he shared with me that the current place where the land is, that building has been destroyed or removed. So what's going on over off of Evans and Rosedale now?
So that's the neat thing. The National Juneteenth Museum helps to continue the legacy and the story of not only what my grandmother has done, but what folks have done for now over almost 160 years in celebrating Juneteenth. We focus on Texas so much because that's when the news reached us. But from a national perspective, it's about highlighting emancipation and freedom all across the country when it came. And so we have started the demolition. We did raise the buildings that were there on property. And so now comes the real work, right, of construction and getting started in that regard. And so we're moving forward. We still have a date, very aggressive date, mind you, of Juneteenth 2025. To be doing not only Miss Opal's walk from the plaza of the National Juneteenth Museum, but opening the doors for folks to start learning, not just about Texas's emancipation, but how emancipation and freedom reached other parts, like, you know, the little known fact of the treaty in 1866 that had to be done in Oklahoma with the 5 tribes there, because the laws of the US, you know, don't, you know, take place or have precedence in Oklahoma on the reservation. So we had to make sure that everybody was covered, and we had to do treaties in Oklahoma. And that's, you know, an important fact that needs to be highlighted in the national story of Juneteenth.
I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'm going to try to pull up this picture that I have of Richard Brown and the Potawatomi Nation. So Dione, you see that? Can you talk about our trip as we look at everything that happened and what, because we was there in Shawnee, you know, and that's the Sac and Fox and the tribe, but Potawatomi Nation right there. Can you talk about our experience of what we did in Oklahoma during that visit?
Well, I tell you what, it was a great visiting Oklahoma and seeing the rich history that is celebrated in Oklahoma, because, again, getting outside of Texas being the main goal, is good to see how freedom and the stories of freedom are around the country. So as we travel, right, and we are learning about the various emancipation stories inside of the country, being first, you guys were the first to invite us to come and hear your stories. And so was great to meet Richard, as well as the others, that, because you guys had a round table. You had a round table that we visited and we got to speak at, and it was good to be a part of that panel discussion of what does freedom really look like.
Yeah. And Mike Glover from Channel 9 came down and did a phenomenal job. So shout outs to Mike, Richard. So Oklahoma is on board with you. We went to Ardmore. We had a chance to hang out with Dr. Littles. You know, she is.
Yes.
What can you say about Dr. Littles?
Well, Dr. Littles is, Dorcine is a part of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, who put in time. People see my grandmother as the face of Juneteenth, but behind her, she's a member of NJOF, and they had been working for years. Dr. Ronald Myers was the founder of that event, the late Dr. Ronald Myers, but they had been working the halls of Congress, you know, and legislation and getting, so this didn't just happen because a little old lady in tennis shoes went walking, all right? There had been many, many years and many, many conversations in those halls and with those people to understand the importance of Juneteenth as a national holiday. For years, they would do a resolution, Cedar Jackson Lee and John Cornyn would do a resolution to acknowledge Juneteenth, you know, in the Southwest, as it was the terminology was used. And so it always relegated it to our history and, you know, and supporting us. But when it needed to be made a national holiday, it took those people working and helping folks in other cities and states recognize the importance of celebrating the freedom of the enslaved, right? Nationally.
Yes.
And so it was a long road, you know, 25 years or so. The organization had been working, and many, you know, starts and stops along the way. But I really think that it's Dorcine is a firm advocate for understanding that freedom of what it looked like in Oklahoma, and working for the rights of those descendants in Oklahoma to the benefits of being a part of the Indian nations there. So I really did get to enjoy meeting her and spending some time with her.
Yeah, I got her up on my page on the cover. So I want everybody to know that we was here in Southern Oklahoma, and we had a chance to just tour around. It was just great to have Dr. Littles there. She is truly amazing. And boy, I tell you what, her and your grandmother, they just had a great conversation. It was awesome. You know what I mean?
It really was.
So here we are. We're talking about Juneteenth with, of course, Dione Sims. Miss Opal is in Philadelphia. She's going to be coming back. So what's the, you guys had a prayer breakfast or so recently. So you're going to be at I Am Terrell coming up on June the 15th. And we have from the movie Just Mercy, the actual lawyer that's coming to Fort Worth. Are you kidding me?
So Juneteenth is a month-long celebration for us. You know, some folks just do the weekend, but for us, we celebrate freedom the whole month. And as Ms. Opal says, we ought to celebrate freedom from the 19th of June to the 4th of July. So we do cover the whole spectrum of the month of June. So we did have our ecumenical service and our Miss Juneteenth pageant. So we now have a new Miss Juneteenth DFW. And so she'll be now able to go out and talk about Juneteenth, and she'll participate in the national pageant in October. We have started Your Voice Unleashed. That is this week for all young people and the young at heart. I've got young folks that participated when they were in Teen Choir Explosion days and wanting to be a part. So we're not limiting it just to, you know, teenagers. We're allowing all those who want to be a part of Your Voice Unleashed and the workshops and the concert. So it's choir, dance, mime, theater arts, and visual art clinics. And of course, participation is free, as is the concert that will be hosted in DeSoto at DC3. But we then go on to the 15th, where we are, as a part of us supporting the National Juneteenth Museum Speaker Series, Uniting Voices. Our very first inaugural speaker is Brian Stevenson of Just Mercy. And he and Miss Opal will be having a moderated conversation at I Am Terrell, the Performing Arts Center, on the 15th. And then we roll right into Juneteenth weekend. And on the 19th, on the actual day, Miss Opal will be doing her 2.5-mile walk for freedom. And we're inviting folks to go out to opalswalk.com to register to walk with her, not only here in Fort Worth, but across the country. So we have a complete virtual campaign, and we're asking folks to show us their 2.5, where they walk with us in commemoration of Juneteenth, what it means, and the legacy continuing. And there's a $35 registration fee, but with that, they get a commemorative shirt, and $6.19 of every registration will go to the National Juneteenth Museum as a part of the capital campaign for constructing the building. So we're very proud of the collaboration there and what we're doing with the speaker series as a part of bringing awareness to just how important Juneteenth is and what it means as a social movement to make sure that we can come together and talk about the real issues affecting our present day that are based on our past, right? We wrap up the month with Empowering You on the 24th here in the DFW area. Empowering You is one of the real important pieces to our Juneteenth celebration, because it is giving individuals resources to better their lives. It's in memory of the fact that our ancestors, once they were told they were free, right, they had to make decisions about what to do with their lives, and with very little information. Do they stay in Texas and work for wages? Or do they go find their family? Do they go north? Is there a better opportunity elsewhere? But they had little information to do that on. And so we are in a information overload now, right? So the goal is to give them the resources to build upon, make decisions, start businesses, you know, get their numbers, health screens. All of those things are going to be a part. And we've got job recruiting actually happening. Businesses that are hiring people today are going to be there. So that's the Empowering You. And we end it, Cedric, with the Taste of Juneteenth.
Okay.
We have our barbecue cook-off that kicks off on that Friday the 30th. So if there are any pit masters listening, please go to JuneteenthFTW.com and register to be a part of the barbecue cook-off. And then on the 1st, it's the Taste of Juneteenth Food Festival, where we'll have all kinds of Afro cuisines. We've got Afro-Mexican, Latino, we've got Caribbean, and we've got African, and then there's just good old soul food. So it's a full month of
activities that's going on, without a doubt.
celebrating Juneteenth every way imaginable.
Wow. I'm going to share my screen again, Dione, and I'm on the website now. So this is what is Opal2K.com, 2DC.
Opalswalk.com is how people can register to be a part of the walk.
Okay. Now, where's the walk going to be at this year? And will we get a chance to watch it on TV? Will there be a network there to cover it through as well?
Yes. So we will be walking in historic South Side, where we will be doing building the National Juneteenth Museum. So it will kick off at Evans Plaza. And it will come back to Evans Plaza. So we're doing a full circle, 2.5 miles, coming back to one of the chief comments of the last couple of years has been the fact that we take people from one point to another and they're not at their cars and when we finish. Yeah. So we heard the comments. And so this year we're going to do it in the whole community of the historic South Side, where the National Juneteenth Museum will be.
Let me say something on that, Dione. Let me say something. Because I understand what the people are saying getting back, but that first year you had to go straight to the courthouse because the point was to raise the Juneteenth national flag at the courthouse.
At the courthouse. So we've always been intentional.
Yes, it was a historic moment. So go ahead.
We're always intentional about our routes. And the goal, right, is to show, like you said, the raising of the flag at the seat of government, because that's where change ultimately happens, right, is being a part of the systems that govern us. And so it was really important for us to show Juneteenth, being celebrated. And that was before, all right, that was before it was made a national holiday. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so with that, so the first year we went to the courthouse. Second year, we went to the new city hall. Mm-hmm. And so this year we will stay inside of where the National Juneteenth Museum will be. And NBC5 is our broadcast sponsor again this year. And so they will stream it, of course, on NBC, DFW.com, on LX and Peacock, so that the nation will see it. It's not just a Texas thing. And then we will broadcast on NBC5.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going back again to my screen one more time, and I want everybody to be able to see this layout of this beautiful museum that is right there. And it's just awesome. And it's just beautiful. You look in there, you see everything that's in there, the color, the designs, the screens and everything. So you guys got to go to the website, nationaljuneteenthmuseum.org, okay? And then also, as I click the screen and go there, we want you to be able, and by the way, thank you to Bank of America for presenting United Voices. Of course, the speaker will be Brian Stevenson and Miss Opal. I mean, this is, I don't know what to say. What's next? What's next? That's all I got to say. What's next?
Well, the thing that's next, Cedric, is establishing the legacy of making Juneteenth the point of reflection. Okay. One of the things that I'm focused on right now is establishing her walk as an annual event, like we do the Macy's Day Parade. All right. You know that Christmas is coming, right, after Thanksgiving with the Macy's Day Parade. And so one of the things that I want is for us to be able to reflectively think about, are we there yet? Have we achieved freedom for all, which Juneteenth represents, right? And so when we do that walk, whether she's walking it or in a golf cart or not even here after she transitions, right? The walk doesn't stop. The movement doesn't stop to check on the pulse of the nation. Are we free yet? Are we there yet? Right? And so with that, it's my goal, right? As a foundation, that we get in our national collective consciousness to think of Juneteenth in that walk perspective. every Juneteenth, whether it's on a Saturday, whatever day it's on, when we're scheduling the Opal's Walk all across the nation, folks are walking that 2.5 miles to, collectively think about their freedom. Okay. The freedom to read and write, education. Is that, the bill to help pay for education in this country, right? The right to own a business, right? To have entrepreneurship as a driving force. The one thing that the pandemic showed is that a lot of people's side hustles became their main hustle. All right. And companies are now, having to pay a living wage, to get people back into the corporate space, because they saw what could happen, to corporate America, and they still had to fend for themselves and feed their families. So a lot of that is, to own property instead of being property, the freedom to marry, the freedom to worship, the freedom, all of these things the previously enslaved did not have the choice to do. Okay, but Juneteenth and emancipation brought those to bear. And so we're making sure that Juneteenth is more than just a festival, more than red soda, water, and barbecue. Those are good, more than a song or a dance. But Juneteenth is reflective of a station in our country's history, and we cannot erase it. It's not about saying, well, things are good, so the past doesn't haunt us. No, systemic racism today is still prevalent because of slavery. And that's why I think that it's so important that we use it as a sounding board, as a catalyst, as a springboard to have those conversations, those real conversations about, are we at a place to where we are equal? That equality does exist, absolute equality, as General Order number 3 stated. You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. So with that, that's what's next. What's next is establishing Juneteenth as a safe place. Again, with the National Juneteenth Museum, a safe place to be able to talk about the real things, right? And not just superficially supporting, Juneteenth as a holiday, but letting it be what can unite us in conversation, unite us in thought around freedom, emancipation, and what does it look like for tomorrow? Right. Even if we don't, go back into human bondage slavery that we experienced as a people, freedom of thought, freedom of mind, financial freedom, right? Freedom in healthcare,
You got that right, because here I've been calculating it up, and what it costs for a person to live nowadays, with the home expenses, the gas expenses. If you work a job, you're making, I know they say minimum wage is $7.25. You can't live on that. You can't live on $9 an hour. You can't live on $11 an hour. $15 an hour is just going to put you right at $30,000 a year.
Just barely a year.
A year. Who can live on that when your mortgage or just to rent a 2-bedroom apartment is over $1,100? I know people that are renting a 3-bedroom apartment and paying $2,000 a month for it. We can't live on that.
And not live. All right. You can exist.
Yes.
You can survive, but are you living? You see what I'm saying?
There's no retirement. There's no investment. There's no healthcare. So I'm saying this because when you have these seminars and you have these events going on, make sure it's more than just food and eating. Let's go educational. Shout outs to my friend Santoria Black down in Ruston, Louisiana. They're having a festival. They're going to bring people and get them involved. We already know Shawnee is going to be doing something too as well. They got the president of Oklahoma Triple C, Dr. Montra Staley Jones, is going to be the speaker at their event. And then here in Ardmore, where I'm at, we're going to be at Whittington Park, and I want to send a shout out to HAV Jemiah, who we was at the center. They're going to have vendors, and they're going to do everything they possibly can, because our people, our young people, they got to look at the future, and we got to start getting them prepared for that. So we've had a chance to talk. Only last thing I didn't get a chance to ask you was about being able to be recognized for that award. The big award where you guys went down, the Nobel Peace Prize. Can you talk about that experience? Because you guys got up and went downtown at the Paris
Coffee
breakfast
shop,
coffee shop at 3 in the morning, and
3 in
everybody
the morning.
is at 3 in the morning. What happened on that day, Dione? Talk to me.
So we know that she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was on her birthday that they made the announcement. So we celebrated her birthday as well as had a watch party for breakfast at Paris Coffee Shop to hear, who was chosen for the Nobel Peace Prize. And so we celebrated her that day. And I think that it was neat to see so much of the community, up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we had a really great time. Just, again, not taking anything for granted, all right? Because if she had won, we would be traveling the world now, even more so than what we're doing today. So, we have to thank God, right?
Yeah.
That maybe she didn't get it for that reason, but she will forever be a 2022 Nobel Peace Prize nominee. And that's something to hang your hat on.
You know what, Dione, as we close, I think about it. I'll never forget the time when you called me with her on the line, and she says to me when she's in her 80s, well, I got to walk to Washington, D.C. And she said, well, call Cedric Bailey. And then she says to me, can you get Charles Barkley? She thinks big outside the box. You can't tell her no. You just got to just do it. But y'all made that trip. Y'all left, what was that, Baker Funeral Home right
Baker
there?
Chapel,
Yes.
AME Church on September the 1st, 2016. And we walked that first 2.5 miles from Baker Chapel to Beach Street in Lancaster. There was a 2.5 mile mark. And then we got up the next morning, started there at Lancaster. And do you know, I did not know that Lancaster goes clear straight through all the way to Dallas.
Yes, it does.
We stayed on that street all the way into Dallas, Box Springs. And then that's when we got the notification that we weren't going to get the RV, because it was a lot, to leave and to go back. Because at that time, we did 2.5 miles in the morning and 2.5 in the evening. She did 5 miles a day, trying to get, to Washington, D.C. And she was literally going to walk, the 1,440 miles. And I remember telling her, I said, Granddare, by the time we get there, Obama's going to be out of office. And she said, I'm not going to have to walk the whole thing, Dione. He's going to call me there before we, have to walk the whole thing. I'm like, okay, as long as you game, we good.
And y'all did make it. So tell us what happened on that.
So we changed it to a symbolic walk when we didn't get the RV. And so we walked all across the country, 2.5 miles. And so we had scheduled to be there January the 10th of 2017 to walk from the Frederick Douglass House to Congress. And that was the day that he chose to go and say goodbye in Chicago. So, we can't undo all of our plans because, we had, appointments and things set and press conferences and things set. But we did. She did the walk and she did her press conference. Thanks to Mark Vesey for hosting her in 2017. But we ended it on the note that, we didn't get what we wanted, right? Juneteenth wasn't made a national holiday by executive order of the president before he left office. And so we had to continue to go, right? Continue to walk, continue to talk. And now we have it as a national holiday.
But then here's the interesting thing. You look up and the phone rings. Now, you and I and Robin, you can't forget about your baby, and your husband. We was all supposed to be down at the Austin Event Center with Jim Austin. And I was going to be hosting the event that day. But all of a sudden, they called me and said, well, Miss Opal is not going to be able to be there. And I said, what happened? They said, well, she got a phone call from Joe Biden. And tell us about that as we close, because this is a historic moment. So close it out, Dione.
So on Wednesday, as they're doing the count, because remember on Tuesday, the Senate unanimously voted for Juneteenth, the bill. All right. And so we kept getting all these calls. Well, y'all got the holiday. I said, no, that's just one chamber. I said, we still have to get the House to vote. And I did not think that was going to happen that quickly. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, they're doing the vote in the House. All right. And so we're watching it on the TV and we're watching the counts. Or it is even, because I remember the president was out at the G9 summit. So I didn't think he was going to be back in town enough to do anything before the weekend. And on that Wednesday with the vote, before it is even over, I'm getting a call on my phone. And they said, Dione Sims? I said, yes. This is the White House. And the president will be signing the Juneteenth bill into law tomorrow, and he would like Miss Opal there. And I'm going, okay, first your question go, who gave him my number? I mean, how did he get my number? Okay. But I said, yes, sir. So, we're up, and I had to thank Scott Collather from Invent, who, made all the arrangements, because he was trying to get us out on a charter flight that night from Meacham Field so that we could be there and be bright and early. So he got us on American Airlines, 5:30 in the morning. All right, getting to DC, and, took care of us. And when I say we felt like dignitaries, we were in black SUVs. All they needed was the little flags on the front, to say Scott did it up well for us. I love the Invent family. But when we get there, and Miss Opal and I are, taking, we have to get COVID tests and things because we're going to be with the president. She was so revered. Okay. And to see and to be there and capturing those pictures of the president bowing his knee to my grandmother, right? And being honored again for just being that consistent drop of water, all right, doing everything she could so that the awareness for Juneteenth to be a national holiday didn't go unnoticed, right? And then, of course, Robin was back home, so she had to, receive the award. And thank you for allowing her to be there for that, because we were in DC. We were in DC, and we did a tour, and then we had to do Good Morning America the next morning, CNN, and it was a whirlwind. And then I asked her, I said, well, now that we got the holiday, because I was tired, Ted. I was tired, Sid, I tell you. I said, do we have to walk on Saturday? I said, can we just put you in a golf cart? She said, no, this is my victory lap. I said, okay. So we walked on Saturday the 19th after being up, I would say almost 36 hours from Wednesday to Friday when we flew back in to be ready by Saturday. And she did. We did a victory lap on the 21st, on that 19th. We did. And it was amazing to experience that with her.
Well, I tell you what, I was honored, and I thank you for calling me to be a part of it. And God has said, hey, you were there in the beginning, you supported her, and that's why we're still talking about it today, because we want to make sure that we have the future set. And I appreciate you sharing this story and testimony, and tell Miss Opal we appreciate her. And again, one more time, we want people to go to the website, and they want to register and sign in, because Miss Opal cannot get to everybody's city. We need everybody to go to the website, and we can do it in unison. Thank you for social media and for Zoom and for Facebook that we can do all this because of technology, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to do it. We just had to did like they did back in the old school days. But Dione, you get the final say.
Well, I really do. So I want folks to go to JuneteenthFTW.com. That's where we're doing all of our events. There you'll be able to find an event for Opal's Walk. If you're in the DFW area, please come out to Evans Plaza. We also have a section, not just for walks, but for cars, because one of the things, Cedric, folks were like, well, I want to support, but I can't do that 2.5 mile walking. So we're going back to allowing the parade feature. The Juneteenth has always had a parade, but the walkers will be first, and then the cars will be allowed to follow us behind. Remember when we did it in 2020 and we did the caravan? So kind of reminiscence of that. So we have the walkers first, and then the vehicles, floats, however people want to celebrate, will be behind the walkers here locally. And then from there, you can also go to register at opalswalk.com to be a part of our virtual implementation all across the country. If you're doing 2.5 miles on your bicycle, if you're doing 2.5 miles on your Peloton, if you're doing 2.5 miles walking 10 times around a high school track, in your neighborhood, show us your 2.5. That's our hashtag. Show us your 2.5 and let us see how impactful Juneteenth is going to be all across the nation. If you register with us, you will get a commemorative t-shirt, and $6.19 of every registration will be donated to the National Juneteenth Museum for the building of the new facility.
Wow, we've said a lot. I will look forward to seeing you on Juneteenth. I will be there, Dione. And I want to say thank you. Tell Miss Opal we love her. Me and my wife, Darla, will be there to support you guys. And just looking forward to it. And also, we're praying that this does happen on 2025, that the museum will be built and everything will be ready to go. Thank you.
It will be. It will be.
Thank you, Dione.
Thank you.